Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tabletop Voices. I'm James Introcaso. I go by he, him, and today I have an incredible guest that I cannot wait to share with you. So, Nadja, introduce yourself. Who are you, and what have you done in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Hello, chat. I am Nadja Otikor, aka Trista Ray. In the world of tabletop role-playing games, I'm probably best known for Misclick's D&D Prophecy, maybe also Misclick's D&D Risen. I've also run Apocalypse World and done some playtesty type stuff on various channels. Get me.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you. And I want to let people know in the chat, if you have a question for Nadja, go ahead, write it down. I'll make sure that it gets asked during the course of the show. So go ahead, fire away. But let's break it down. Take me all the way back, Nadja. When did you first lay hands on a tabletop role-playing game? What game were you playing? How did it all go down?
Well, going way back is not that far for me. I started tabletop in like 2015, not not terribly long ago.
Nice.
I found D&D through Twitch. One of my favorite Hearthstone streamers that I followed guested on Stephen Lumpkin's West Marches campaign that was going on. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll check this out." And then I watched it and I was like, "Wait, no, this is amazing. What is this? How do I do it? Where do I find this thing?" Um, and from there, I joined. I was living in Chicago at the time, and I joined a local like D&D meetup at a bar, geek bar specifically. And I did that for a while. The first game I ever ran was an Apocalypse World campaign that I did for the Math Squad community, Adam Coble's community. And that wasn't streamed or anything, and it was kind of a mess, but it was a beautiful mess. I missed it. I miss it dearly.
That's really cool that you ran Apocalypse World for his community. That's I would be intimidated, I think.
I mean, I'm a moderator in that community, and have been for, I don't know, like 4 years or something absurd. And I was just kind of like, "Hey, I want to learn how to GM. Who wants to be my guinea pigs?" And people were like, "Me, me, me." And we all played that game together.
Wow, that's excellent. What a great community. That's really cool. And you've run all kinds of systems on the internet. You've run 5th edition, you've run Apocalypse World. So in this sort of short time that you've been doing this tabletop thing, you've been doing it for an audience. Your experience is very different, I think, than sort of the typical story we hear about being in your parents' basement and your older sibling teaching you how to play or something like that. How has that been for you? Like, what made you want to immediately jump in and consume so much of this and learn so much about it?
It's I think what I like the most about it, when I first tried, is the creative freedom. Like my outsider perspective of D&D before I saw people playing it on stream was that it was very rigid, that it was functionally like playing a turn-based computer RPG, but you have to remember all the rules yourself, and, and there's no machine to like tell you can't do a thing. But upon playing it, upon watching it, I realized that there's a lot of collaborative storytelling going on, and that's what attracted me to jumping into tabletop. And because I am a very gung ho person about anything that I do, I just went to the deep end immediately. um, and like didn't even realize it was weird until catching back up with people that did not start on stream. I was just like, well, I first watched it on stream, so obviously I would play it on stream. That doesn't seem weird to me.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's a natural progression to think like, this is how I found it, so this is how I would play it. Right. That's really fascinating and amazing. And I think there's a lot of people who are now finding role-playing games because of streaming and actual play videos and podcasts. And
Mhm.
I do think it's changing people's perception about the games from a rigid rules-based game to a storytelling game. I
Mhm.
think that's a big part of it. So have you seen that shift in mindset from other people, not just yourself?
Yeah. Um, it's weird for me to answer that question because I was not here before streaming
Sure.
was a
Yeah.
big thing.
Yeah.
Um, so things like I was helping play test a LARP at
Mm,
PAX West, and the person facilitating the game was like, "I know this might be weird, but be careful to not talk over each other and give each other space to talk." And coming from streaming, obviously, because if everybody cross talks over their mics, it sounds terrible. You can't understand what anyone's saying. Um, so I didn't even realize that was like a rule or like a guideline that people needed to be given because I'm so used to role playing in a video conferencing call and following
mm.
that inherently. So it's always like a weird thing when I don't want to call them relics, but like habits from pre-internet tabletop. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I guess you do need to call that out for some people that you shouldn't talk over other people when they're talking in character." Who knew?
I I recently introduced the game to my father, and one of the first questions he had was, "How do I interrupt people in this game?" And I was like, "Oh no." So I think maybe he should have learned via streaming as well. That probably would have helped him out. So that we actually have a question from chat. TK has joined the fray, who was our guest on this program. Wants to know which setting had the steepest learning curve for you to run?
Setting meaning game,
Yeah, I think that's
probably.
probably yeah. So yeah, which
Um,
game?
Burning Wheel, unquestionably.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The Burning
Mm-hmm.
Wheel is a great system, and I love running it, but definitely it has you need some time with it to grok how it all fits together. Um,
Gotcha.
but highly recommend if you can find a copy, uh, and you can find other people that also have copies
Mhm.
playing that game.
What is for people who are listening who don't know? What is the Burning Wheel?
The Burning Wheel is a fantasy tabletop role-playing system, primarily by Luke Crane,
Mm,
the inimitable Luke Crane. Um, and I like how to characterize it. It has a really great life path system for making a character or burning a character, as the terminology goes, where you decide like where your character was born, and then decide like what different roles they held in life up into the beginning of the campaign. And
mhm.
there's rules about how you can get from life path to life path that kind of prevent you from just writing your character's backstory. You instead have to like follow these pathways, and they give you inherent skills and give you traits. You get better at things by doing them. So, so if you want to be really great at sword, probably figure out how your character learned sword, and then
Mhm.
sword people a lot in the game, and you will build up uh, your sword skill. It also has really great belief instinct goals, or not goals, belief instinct trait system that
Mm.
like following your beliefs um, and letting your instincts and traits get you into trouble gets you Artha, which is what you use for character advancement. And there's a lot of moving pieces, but it fits together really well. Props to Luke
Yeah, that
Crane. I did a terrible job explaining your game. Hopefully you don't see this, or if you do, I don't know, fight me.
I think you did a great job explaining it. It sounds really engaging and fun, and I love this. I think a lot of role-playing games try to take that concept of like you need to actually do a thing to get better at it, but I think the Burning Wheel does it very well, and
Yes.
implements that that sort of Elder Scrolls system of leveling up, if you will.
Yeah, I almost said Skyriming your skills up, but then I was like, I don't want to give the impression that you're just standing in the Mage Guild casting like this one mana spell over and over and over to level your, I don't know, abjuration or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah. Just transmuting silver into gold all day. Yeah. So you can then take that gold and blacksmith a million different rings.
Right. Not so much that, but doing things makes you better at doing things, which should like be inherent, but in many games it's not.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. It's super awesome to see you run a game. I think you're a really, really great
Thank you.
game master. What makes you, and one of the things I'm so impressed with is you always seem so comfortable. You seem like you're, which I think is key to running a good game, getting out of our heads, right? How do you do that? How do you make yourself so comfortable and relaxed while you're gaming?
Having good people is super important. I'm very careful about who. No, I'm just going to say it about how my games are cast because they're normally streamed. Picking a cast is super important, turns out. So like having people that I'm very comfortable with. I like making shit up. Am I allowed to curse?
Yep.
Okay, good, because I just did. But yeah, I like making things up, and I kind of like flying by the seat of my pants, which is why I gravitate towards Powered by the Apocalypse games, for instance, because the system like facilitates the MC or whatever your GM name is in that game. It facilitates them just really being able to think off the wall and take player input and reincorporate it in very interesting ways.
Yeah, that's totally true. Do you have a favorite Powered by the Apocalypse game that you love to run?
Yes, it is Monster Hearts Second Edition.
Nice. That's awesome. That's a bold
Big
pick too.
big fan.
What do you love about Monster Hearts so much?
I love how messy it allows you to be, and how flawed your characters are inherently because they're terrible monsters, by which I mean teenagers, but like they're also like werewolves and vampires, and they have other problems besides being in high school. Um
Mm.
and it just like that genre setting. I love Buffy growing up. So it and The Craft. Buffy and The Craft are like my two call-ons
Oh
for
yeah.
Monster Hearts. And I find it hilarious to just reenact high school drama and how the adults are all functionally useless. Like any narrative that foregrounds kids or adolescents, the adults can't solve the problems. Just like inherently, that's part of the genre, is that the adults are not going to help you, like Goonies or whatever. You know what I mean? Like anything where the kids are the heroes, it's because the adults are functionally useless for one reason or another. And I like playing teachers that faint at the sight of blood, for example. And so, like, somebody's getting, chomped on by a vampire, and the teacher just passes out, and everybody's like, well, that's now what do we do? And it's a great game for escalation, too, which is one of my
Mm.
favorite tactics in role playing. Always escalate.
Oh yeah, talk about that a little bit. So how do you how what do you mean when you say always escalate?
It comes from the first time I played any game as a GM, it was Apocalypse World, and the text tells you like make sure you see your NPCs in crosshairs. And so I don't hold any character too dearly or too preciously. Like if I make something, I expect it to get destroyed in one way or another. So like in something like Apocalypse World, uh, it, if the characters fail a roll, don't don't be too scared to like push them super hard. Like, oh, you rolled a 6, so now instead of I don't know, like creating something beautiful, you set the hold on fire. You have a few minutes until the leaky gas pipe in the corner makes everything erupt. What do you do? And like just always ratchet up tension is kind of my go-to.
I love that. That's great. It's one thing that I think people definitely know you from is your work with Misclicks. How
Mhm.
did you get started working with Misclicks? And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Risen and Prophecy, the games that you ran.
Yeah, of course. So I went to Gen Con in 2015, I believe.
Mhm.
And there I met the person who was doing social media community management for Miss Clicks at the time, Stephanie Powell. And I was like, "Hey, I know you from this website, this Twitch stream. I would love to be involved. Let me know what I can do. I could jam a game." And she was really open to it, brought me in, got me set up with Risen. Not Risen, sorry, Prophecy, which was the big like year-long campaign that I ran for Miss Clicks. In terms of I don't think I did not cast that one. Um,
Mm.
it was kind of a group project to cast all of the people. So we got Rob, who is Charwins, who is fantastic, does a lot of the did a lot of the graphic design for Miss Clicks projects. Um, Britt Wiseman, who had never played a tabletop game before. Um, Silden, Jess Timmons, had only played Burning Wheel before for Roll 20's own streams. And we got Tia Lorelania, who had played
Mhm.
second edition before. And it was I feel like I might be etc somebody. No, that was the core cast. And then we had some guests like Blue Jay guested for a while, and some people jumped in and out. But we just had this group of people that were various experience levels. I had never run D&D 5th edition. I'd never run D&D period. But 5th edition before we started Prophecy, and we just all kind of learned and meshed together, which was super fantastic.
Mhm.
And things like telling Britt Wiseman, and like, no, that when you are shapeshifted into a rhino and you want to charge a target, it has to be a straight line. And she's like, well, can I jump over this person that's in the way? And I'm like, you can't drop kick people as a rhino. I'm sorry. it's just it's just not the rules. It makes literally no sense. And like helping them understand the rules and like how they play out in narrative was
Mhm.
very cool for me. Like think about what you're asking me. No, you can't do that.
One of the things that is a joy about that is you're watching people learn D&D,
Mhm.
and you are a really great teacher. And it's also great to see everybody learning together 5th edition and playing it and just having a blast. I think that's one of the hallmarks of that show is everyone is having such a good time when they're
Mm.
playing, which is really makes you as a viewer have a good time. I also want to talk to you. So through Misclicks, you ended up running a game at the Stream of Annihilation. You ran a
Yes.
live game. Yeah. How was that? How'd that go?
It was really funny. We had I want to say like hour and a half, 2 hour slot.
Mhm.
Um, and so instead of trying to kick off Risen with
Mhm.
with like the first episode in Chult, we did this really hilarious flashback to a time that the characters had adventured together previously, and it was a great way to introduce the characters to each other because we hadn't had a chance to sit down and do character creation as a group as I prefer to do.
Mhm.
And so the characters got introduced to each other. We got a really good sense of how they fit together. Um, and I had just kind of improved a little dungeon because we didn't have a Roll20 map as we did in the actual Risen show. So we just improved a dungeon and gave them some obstacles, and you could see how the characters uh, and how the players of those characters did problem solving. And
Very
it
cool.
was a great intro, and it was hilarious to see like Neil and Britt's characters get stuck to an axe because they failed their charisma checks and were being mind controlled. Um, I don't know. It was fun. It was silly, and it gave people a really good introduction to the characters, to the group, and allowed us to build some chemistry before beginning the adventure proper.
Yeah, I thought that was such a smart decision to say, here's a flashback, because then it really did allow you to have, like, okay, we're doing this one thing. It doesn't necessarily, it can set up things for the future, but it doesn't have
Hmm.
to. It can all just be a and that just was really, really great. Why do you prefer to do character creation as a group?
So that the characters, the my least favorite thing upon starting a campaign is you all answer some advertisement somewhere and show up at this tavern at the same time. You have no idea who each other are.
Mhm.
Um, and I prefer to just dispense with that altogether and say, no, you already know each other. You already trust each other because you have agreed to go on this adventure together. How can we link your characters together? How like if somebody has this backstory where someone helped them out, why not make it this other player character instead of some random NPC that will never show up unless I
Mhm.
shoehorn them in. And I like having the in character chemistry already set. And also making characters together as players helps build the table chemistry. I air quote it because it's always a video conference. But it helps build um, bonds between the characters and chemistry between the players, which I think is really important if you're going to embark upon a campaign together. And it's especially good for a show. You want to have that built in, like, hey, we all know each other and we're all already having fun thing before the first episode. And instead of just having people staring at their webcams, like, I don't know what's going on.
Do you do character creation on stream as well? Like, do you invite an audience into that process to see how it's working?
Yeah, it depends. For one shots, um, it depends on whether or not there's time.
Hmm.
Um, and if we don't do it on stream, I usually try and get it recorded and put up on YouTube or whatever, so that if people are interested, they can go see it. Audiences, some people like seeing character creation.
Hmm.
Some people get really impatient. Like, when are they playing? When are they gonna play? I'm like, we are. Character creation is part of the game. But that's
Exactly.
my personal stance.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. And I actually, as a player and a GM myself, I love to watch people run their session zeros or their character creation sessions,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call them, because it gives me ideas that I can steal as a GM. I love to watch, like, Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to steal that question. Or, oh, I should be asking about that. And I haven't been until 3 sessions in. It's really fucked some things up. So that's, that's the way I feel like I learn a lot when I watch streams, particularly session 0 streams.
Yeah, same.
So you have a pretty awesome thing going on right now. You're at twitch.tv/actualplay. You're doing a play test. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we are playtesting Agon, 2nd edition. Agon being a game about ancient Greek heroes on an Odyssey. In a very literal sense, in that they're lost and are going from island to island trying to get home, but not so literally in that we are not Odysseus, but basically you're role playing like off-brand Odysseus, traveling from island to island trying to curry the gods' favor so that they will let you go home.
Right.
And I'm playing Clever-Eyed Hagne, daughter of Hades. Do I have anything else? I think, follower of Artemis, right. And then John Harper, who wrote the initial game, is also one of the players. It's being GM'd by Sean Nittner, who is helping with this rewrite and who runs the channel Actual Play. And then we've got Karen Twelves, who is a fantastic, she does an improv for gamers. That's kind of her like thing in the tabletop space. She's releasing a book of improv games for people that do tabletop called Improv for Gamers.
Nice.
And the 4 of us just kind of we made our characters and we ran through the play test once, and then it was like, not quite right. And Sean and John took some weeks and rewrote basically everything as far as I can tell. And we just jumped back into the same characters, shifted slightly to the new character sheet, and tried doing something else. I think it's all up on YouTube. But yeah, it's a fantastic system. We're all not only trying to win the gods' favor, but we are competing against each other to win the most glory before we get home. I got 21 glory in the last session in one roll, and it was super great, very suspenseful. Hashtag good at games. But no, it's just the dice favored me. Sorry, I'm rambling.
That's glory. So how have you found that you're in a game where you're working together with your fellow players, but you're also sort of competing against each other? Does that affect the way you work together at all?
It did a bit, and then they changed. So before the rules got rewritten a bit, there we kind of got in each other's way a bit more. I felt with actually accomplishing any task. But since the rules have been changed, we work more in concert. But we were also simultaneously like, yes, we need to fight the harpies, but I fought the harpies the best. So there's a lot of like when we describe our actions, there's a lot of showy language, and we all like, yes, I chop the harpy, and then I shoot this other character, or look like, see, I did better than you. And there's a lot of kind of it's really like what's the word I'm looking for? Like aggrandizing, self-aggrandizing. Our announcement every week that we're going live is followed by like a chain of gifs of the three players trying to like outdo each other with like the spiciest gift or not gift, but gif on Twitter. And we just go back and forth and kind of get in the mindset of like competition and not just being the best, but letting everybody know that you were the best when you do something. And it's a really fun mindset to play in. Yeah.
That's incredible. So what has it been like playing the same character in a system where the rules keep changing?
It's a fun challenge.
Mhm.
You really have to know what the core of the character is. And as your character sheet changes, you need to understand how to translate the same person into whatever changes have happened on the character sheet.
Mm.
Um, so like an exercise would be like fill out a character sheet for Aragorn in 5th edition. Now do it for Burning Wheel. Now do it for Dungeon World. Like how do you keep the same person
Mhm.
in wildly disparate rule settings? And I find that a fun creative challenge. And it slightly pushes my idea of the character around depending on where the rules spotlight her abilities and traits,
That's incredible.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Are there any systems that you haven't played that you're eager to try?
Mm. Um, Masks. I would love to play Masks.
Mm.
I own it and haven't had a chance to run it actually. Mouse Guard, I would like to run.
Oh,
Um, Torchbearer, I would like to run.
yeah.
Uh, there's some things I would love to get back to. I've run Stars Without Number before, but I haven't done it in a while and would like to get back into that one.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
there's I would love for Agon to be finished so that I can have it and play it with other people. Swords Without Master too, I think, is released, but I haven't had a chance to play with anybody but the actual play people yet.
Oh, excellent. That's awesome. I love that you get to play so many systems too before they come out. Is pretty awesome.
It's the best.
Well, and you have a chance too while you're playing those things to really help shape the game. I think, right? You're not just playing the game; you're giving feedback to the people who
Mhm.
designed it.
Yeah, definitely. And John Harper is fantastic about that in particular. Luke
Mhm.
Crane also is a fantastic person to play tests with, and like really, it helps me as a GM not only to see other people GMing, but like be adjacent to a game being designed and understanding how the rules shape the way that people run the game and how they shape the way that people play the game. Like
Mhm.
getting a good understanding of that is helpful for later picking a system when I'm like, I want to do fantasy. What kind of fantasy do I want to do? Is it D&D? Is it Dungeon World? Is it Burning Wheel? Is it like those all tell very different stories, and like understanding the way the rules do that is helpful to me.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You can definitely most of your work is done for you tone wise, setting wise, if you pick the right system for the story you
Mhm.
want to tell.
Mhm.
I totally agree. There's so many great systems out there that people should definitely check out. And Masks is super fun. I have gotten to play Masks, and you are right to want to play it because it is the bomb. It's great.
Yeah.
Um,
I love teenage drama.
so you also on your own Twitch channel, you stream yourself playing video games as well. Have
Here
you
and there, yeah.
found
When I can.
have you found there's a difference between sort of the audiences that you're getting tabletop and video games?
Yeah, that yes.
Hmm.
Fundamentally, yes. I stream, like, fairly infrequently, to be honest, and I like, the last game I streamed was Cultist Simulator, which is, like, this super niche, uh
Hmm.
it's basically solitaire, but also you're building a cult. It's really weird, and I can't explain it, but check it out. It's just super fun. Um, but while I'm doing something like that, most of the time I'm talking about tabletop RPGs because
Mm-hmm.
because that's my area of interest. So if
Heck
I have
yeah.
downtime in this video game, I'm talking about um whatever random tabletop thing I've been doing recently. So there's some crossover there. Most people that know even that I have a stream know about it from tabletop space anyway.
That's awesome.
So mostly, and I have a very, very tiny audience. So, because I'm not a regular streamer because I just moved states.
Sure. Totally. So, what would you say? You've got all these shows that you've done and all these achievements in the world of streaming. What are you most proud of that you've worked on?
Um, I would say probably Prophecy, just because it was such a big project and resonated with so many people still. Um, and then I think for smaller things, I've run some really great Monster Hearts one shots at conventions, and in like the role playing convention world, that's what I'm most known for, is running a really good Monster Hearts one shot. Um, so yeah, I think those would be like my two biggest achievements thus far.
Oh wow! I need to meet up with you at a convention and play. I've never played Monster Hearts, and
Wow.
now I have to have it from the Monster Hearts one shot. Master. That would be the way to play. It sounds like.
Now, if you're
So,
ever at a West Coast tabletop convention, let me know.
absolutely. So, what are your hopes, either personal or sort of for the industry as a whole, for tabletop gaming? What would you like to see for the future of the industry?
I would So the basic word is diversification, but not only
Mhm.
in people playing, both on stream and off, but in the types of games that are being played. I would like to see more and more niche games being written and
Mhm.
played, uh, and I don't know, just broadening the definition of what it looks like to play a tabletop game
Mhm.
generally. And that's my, personal goal is demoing people that are new to the game or new to playing, like showing those people off on stream, showing newer games off on streams, and just broadening the base.
That's really great. And I love the idea of diversification of games and of people in the industry. Is there a niche that you think should be filled? Like if you could design a game and have it appear poof right in front of you, is there a niche that you would want to see filled?
Yeah. Um I don't know. My personal Okay, so I have a serious answer or a not so serious answer.
Let's give
My not
both.
so
I'm game.
serious answer. Yeah. The not serious one, I love Korean dramas. I would
Mm,
love a game that allowed you to build that sort of like zany narrative um,
mhm,
of people that are beautiful but have no emotional intelligence. And so it takes them like 12 episodes to realize that they're in love with each other. I think
mhm,
that's like rife for hilarity. Um, More seriously, I would like, and it's not that this isn't being done now, but games like Mutants in the Night or Harlem Unbound, like games that are um, bringing a different experience, a different set of experiences
mhm,
to the table, both metaphorically and literally, and really allowing people to explore that space that they otherwise would not have access to because they don't hail from, let's say, urban areas. Just gonna put
mhm.
it that way.
I love that you brought up Harlem Unbound because we're actually going to have the creator of Unbound on the show next week.
Yay.
So that's going to be a really great one to look forward to. And wow, what an awesome game that is that he made. Really cool. So, what advice would you have for people who want to do what you want to do?
Just do it. uh, like that's the short answer.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people think they need to be perfect at something before they can start doing it, which like I fully understand. I was one of those kids that went to a gifted and talented program where they just tell you you're smart and you don't have to actually, like, I never had to study for school or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm good at everything. And then I encountered things I wasn't good at, and I was like, I guess I just won't do those things. Don't do that.
Mhm.
If you want to get into it, just get into it. Now is it's so easy now to find a system, find people local or not. I've played tabletop games with people that live in Sweden.
Mhm.
The internet is a hell of a drug. Just do it.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is very easy to do, and is really fun. It'll be the best thing you ever do. Play a
Mhm,
tabletop
mhm.
role playing game. So where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, my domain is mostly my Twitter at
Mhm.
Trist_CHI. Um, be wary. I tweet a lot, and a lot of it is I shitpost. I shitpost on Twitter. I'm a shitposter. You can also, I'm just being honest. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Tristaray,
Mhm.
where I don't stream that often. But if I'm on a stream, I usually host it there, which I'm just now realizing I did not host this. Apologies. Work has been a trash fire. Um, and I do have a tiny YouTube channel. Like if you want to see Cultist Simulator, my
Mhm.
playthrough of that is on YouTube. um, and I think my name on there is also Tristaray. So you could look up Cultist Simulator Tristaray and find me playing how to build a cult solitaire game. It's really great. I don't know how to explain it. It's a
I
cool game
like
though.
It is the next thing I am doing when we are done with this conversation. I am definitely going to go check this out. It sounds
Everyone
so
check out
fun.
Cultist Simulator.
um, Thank you so much for joining me today on Tabletop Voices. I really appreciate it, Nadja. And I'm James Introcaso. You can find me on Twitter at James Introcaso. This is a podcast now, so you can go listen to past episodes over at don'tsplitthepodcastnetwork.com. It's also on YouTube on the Encounter Roleplay channel. Thank you so much to Will and Sydney for making this show happen. It was their idea. They do all the hard stuff. I just get to have conversations with awesome people like Nadja. And join us next week when Chris Spivey, who made Harlem Unbound, will be my guest. Thank you all so much and have a great time. Be very kind to each other.